She hated me for stealing his love letter sewing. Our second life. I let her destroy her future for him. At our high school reunion, everyone raised a glass to the girl who had deliberately thrown away 21 exam answers just to follow the boy she loved. They called her brave. They called her romantic. They called her proof that true love still existed. 4 years later, that same boy looked her in the eyes and said, "Ruining your future was your decision. Don't blame me because you regret it." What no one in that room knew was that this was not the first time we had lived through this story. In our previous life, I had stopped her from making that sacrifice. She hated me for it until the day we both died. So when fate gave us another chance, I did exactly what she had begged me to do with her final breath. I stepped aside, and I watched her choose him, the letter I should never have touched. My name is Nathan Cole. For the first 18 years of my life, almost every important memory included Amelia Grant. Our mothers had met in the maternity ward. I was born 3 days before her. Our families lived on the same street outside Manchester, celebrated holidays together and sent us to the same schools. Amelia learned to walk while holding my mother's coffee table. I learned to ride a bicycle using one her father had repaired. When I forgot my lunch, her mother packed enough food for both of us. When older students teased me for being quiet, Amelia stood in front of me and told them they would have to deal with her first. We were not siblings. We were not lovers. For most of our childhood, we simply existed beside each other so naturally that neither of us ever considered what the relationship meant. By secondary school, Amelia and I had become the highest performing students in our year. She loved physics. I loved mathematics. We competed over examination scores, academic prizes, and who could solve a teacher's impossible problem first. Whenever one of us lost, the other offered sympathy with the sincerity of a professional criminal. At the beginning of our final 3 school years, the administration displayed photographs of the previous year's top 2 graduates on a gold-framed board. Amelia stood in front of it beneath a bright summer sky. 3 years from now, those photographs will be ours. She turned toward me. "Nathan Cole, are you confident?" I looked at the empty spaces beneath the heading, first and second. "Obviously. Which one belongs to you?" She narrowed her eyes. "The first. Then I suppose I'll take the other one." She smiled. At 17, the future looked simple. Study, win, enter excellent universities, become the people we had promised our parents we would become. Then Adrian Blake stepped onto the stage during the school arts festival. Adrian was everything Amelia and I were not. He was spontaneous, careless, magnetic. While the rest of us arrived at school with heavy books and exhausted faces, Adrian appeared as though he had wandered out of a magazine advertisement. He played guitar, captained the volleyball team, remembered everyone's name, smiled like rules were amusing suggestions created for other people. That evening, he wore a white shirt beneath the stage lights and sang an ordinary song as though it had been written specifically for every girl watching. Half the audience fell in love with him. Amelia was among them. I noticed several days later, she had carried physics papers to Adrian's classroom for a teacher. When she returned, the tips of her ears were pink. For the entire evening study session, she completed only one problem. Across the margin of her paper, she had written his name 3 times. Each version had been scratched out so aggressively that the paper had nearly torn. "Did something happen?" I asked. "No. You've been staring at the same equation for 40 minutes. It's difficult. It's one we solved last week." Amelia closed the book. "Do you ever stop noticing things?" "Not often." She looked away. Later, I learned that Adrian had bumped into her while joking with friends. He caught her before she fell. Then he smiled and said, "Careful, Professor Grant. You're far too pretty to be attacking the floor." The story spread through school before lunch. Amelia pretended she did not care. Then she began disappearing during lunch to tutor Adrian. On Sunday mornings, she stopped meeting me at the library because Adrian had invited her to volleyball matches, photography walks and group outings. Our conversations changed. Once, Amelia and I had discussed research programs and university scholarships. Now she asked whether a certain jacket looked too formal, whether boys preferred long or short hair, whether it was obvious when someone liked another person. I knew the answer she wanted. I simply did not give it to her. "You like Adrian?" She almost dropped her pen. "I never said that. You wrote his name across your physics notes. You read my notes. They were beside my hand. That does not give you permission. You asked whether your feelings were obvious." Amelia glared at me. I was speaking hypothetically. Then hypothetically, yes, she did not speak to me for the rest of the day. I was not angry that she liked him. At least, I did not recognize the feeling as anger. What frightened me was how quickly Amelia changed. The rules she had created for herself. During our second to last school year, she earned a place in the final stage of a national physics competition. She had trained for months. Our teachers believed the prize could secure her entry into almost any scientific program in Britain. The morning of the final, Adrian developed a severe fever and became unwell at school. Staff contacted his family and arranged medical care. Amelia still abandoned the competition to accompany him. I found her outside the hospital that afternoon. She sat beneath harsh corridor lights, holding an unopened physics folder on her lap. "Tell me the competition was delayed," I said. Her face remained calm. "It wasn't. You missed it." "Yes, Amelia, you spent a year preparing." Adrian was ill. He had doctors and family with him. He asked me to stay. I stared at her. She leaned back against the wall. "I have followed every rule my entire life. What does that have to do with this? Perhaps I was allowed to rebel once. This is not rebellion." My voice became sharper. "This was your future." Her eyes turned cold. "It is my future." She was right. That was the first warning I refused to understand. Near the end of our final year, the school held a conference for its 100 highest scoring students. I returned to our classroom during the event because I had forgotten a notebook. The room should have been empty. Instead, Adrian stood beside Amelia's desk with 2 friends. A cream-colored envelope rested beneath one of her books. He had written her name across the front. One of his friends laughed. "So you're really confessing?" Adrian rubbed the back of his neck. "I suppose you started this because of a bet." "I know." The words stopped me outside the door. Another friend lowered his voice. "You were only supposed to make the top student fall for you at first, and now." Adrian looked at the envelope. "Now I actually like her." "Then why wait until the examinations? Because you get into Oxford or Cambridge, and I won't. You could try long distance." "I don't want that." Adrian tapped the envelope against his palm. "I told her I wanted us to attend the same university." His friend laughed. "She never lower her score for you." Adrian's expression became uncertain. "She already missed the physics final when I was ill." "That was different, was it?" The group left before I could move. I entered the classroom. The envelope remained beneath Amelia's book. I should have walked away. I should have trusted her. I should have remembered that her choices belonged to her, even when I believed those choices were reckless. Instead, I picked up the letter. I told myself I was protecting years of effort, her parents' sacrifices, the future she wants. Described with shining eyes beneath the achievement board, I told myself there was only a tiny possibility that Amelia would deliberately lower her examination score to follow Adrian, but I had already seen her abandon the national competition. 1% no longer felt impossible. I removed the letter. I intended to return it after the examinations. By then, Amelia's results would be secure. She could date Adrian, reject him or follow him across the country without sacrificing the opportunities she had earned. I believed delaying one choice by several weeks could not destroy anything real. I was wrong. Adrian assumed Amelia had found the letter and ignored it. Humiliated, he withdrew. Amelia never understood why he suddenly became distant. After the examinations, they attended universities in different cities. She entered one of Britain's most prestigious physics programs. He entered a regional university with an excellent social life and an ordinary academic record. Their relationship ended before it began, and Amelia spent the rest of her first life wondering what she had lost. The life she blamed me for. Amelia became everything our teachers expected: an outstanding physicist, a favorite student of an internationally respected professor, a regular speaker at academic conferences. Her name appeared in journals before she turned 30. Photographs showed her standing beneath enormous screens, explaining complex research to rooms filled with people who listened to every word. She built the brilliant life she had once planned, but somewhere inside it, Adrian remained the unanswered question. At alumni gatherings, people brought news. Adrian was dating someone. Adrian had separated from someone. A wealthy woman had invited Adrian on holiday. Another woman had bought him an expensive car. Each story seemed to reopen something in Amelia. She did not blame Adrian. She blamed me. Years after university, my mother asked Amelia to help assemble new shelves in my apartment while I was away. During the work, she found one of my old journals. Most pages contained ordinary memories, examinations, competitions, days at the library. The afternoon Amelia helped me home after I injured my ankle. The morning she stood beside me in punishment. Because I had arrived late and she refused to enter class without me. The sentence that changed everything appeared. Halfway through, I think I love Amelia Grant. When I returned, she stood inside my study holding the journal. Her face showed no softness, no surprise, only contempt. You liked me. I looked at the book. Once. That word offended her more than a confession would have. Once. It was a long time ago. She threw the journal toward me. It struck my shoulder and fell to the floor. So that is why you stole the letter. I stared at her. How do you know? Adrian told me last week that he left it beneath my book. She laughed bitterly. All these years, I thought. He changed his mind. I bent down and picked up the journal. You were about to take the most important examinations of your life. That was my decision. You had already abandoned a national competition for him. So I was afraid you would abandon more. Amelia's eyes burned. You were jealous. No, you wanted me. So you destroyed our chance. I planned to return the letter after the examinations, but you didn't, because by then Adrian believed you had rejected him. You should have told us. Yes. The simplicity of my answer seemed to unsettle her. I wiped dust from the journal's cover. I was wrong. She had prepared to fight. My agreement gave her nowhere to place the anger. You stole my life. No, I met her eyes. I stole a letter. Everything after that belonged to the choices we all made. You think you can excuse yourself that easily? I'm not excusing anything. If Adrian and I had attended the same university, everything would have been different. Perhaps we would have stayed together. Perhaps I would still have succeeded. Perhaps. Her voice rose. You don't believe me. I don't know. That is because you're still jealous. I was tired, not angry, not heartbroken, simply tired of carrying a decision I had made at 18 as though it explained every disappointment in Amelia's adult life. I'm sorry I took the letter, I said. I'm sorry I interfered with your relationship. I placed the journal on the desk, and I'm sorry I ever liked you without permission. Her face changed. For one moment, pain entered it. Then she turned away. You are jealous, selfish, and cruel. She left. Those words followed every future meeting. We worked in overlapping academic circles. Our parents remained close. We could not avoid each other completely. Amelia treated me with cold civility in public and sharp resentment in private. Whenever Adrian's name appeared, she looked at me as though I had personally built every wall between them. The final time we were together was the day of Adrian's wedding. Our former school had invited several graduates to record a motivational video for current students. The theme was always moving forward. Amelia drove. I sat in the passenger seat, adjusting the camera equipment. For several hours, we worked peacefully, almost like the students we had once been. On our way back, her phone rang through the car speakers. Adrian's voice filled the vehicle. Amelia, today is my wedding. Her hands tightened around the steering wheel. I realized I forgot to send you an invitation. He gave her the location and time. Then he ended the call. Silence filled the car. I looked through the window. I can get a taxi from here. Amelia said nothing. At the next junction, she turned toward the wedding venue. The road was wet. Rain moved heavily across the windscreen. She drove faster. Amelia, I need to see him. He's getting married. I know. You cannot arrive there expecting. I said I know. A lorry appeared through the rain. There was a flash of headlights. The sound of impact. Then stillness. I could no longer feel my body. Somewhere beside me, Amelia whispered my name. Nathan. I tried to answer. Her voice grew weaker. If we could start again. She coughed. Please don't take the letter. I closed my eyes. Don't destroy our chance. Those were the final words I heard in my first life. The second chance she asked for. When I opened my eyes, I was 15. A mathematics book rested beneath my head. Our teacher was writing equations across the board. Amelia sat beside the window, young again, her pen moving rapidly across a page. For several seconds, I could not breathe. The accident, the rain, her final request, all of it remained inside me. Amelia turned. Why are you staring at me? I looked at her and touched face. No anger yet, no years of resentment, no brilliant career, no regret. I had a strange dream. She raised an eyebrow. During class, yes. Was it educational? Not particularly. She turned back toward the board. I understood where we were. 3 years before the examinations. 3 years before Adrian's letter. 3 years before the choice that divided all our lives. I did not know whether Amelia remembered. For a long time, she behaved exactly as she had before. She noticed Adrian during the arts festival, wrote his name in her physics notes, tutored him during lunch, spent Sundays at his activities. When Adrian became ill, before the national physics final, she abandoned the competition to remain at the hospital. I found her beneath the same corridor lights. She looked prepared for an argument. Instead, I stopped several meters away. Is he all right? Yes, good. She waited. I said nothing else. Nathan, what? You came all this way to check whether you needed anything. Her expression became uncertain. In our first life, I had demanded an explanation. This time, I placed a bottle of water beside her. Your parents are worried. Call them. Then I left. Amelia stared after me. Perhaps she felt the first crack in the future she remembered. I no longer intended to stop her. The day Adrian placed the letter beneath her book, I attended the academic conference exactly as before. When I returned to our classroom, the cream-colored envelope waited beneath Amelia's physics text. I stood in the doorway. My heart beat faster. I remembered the first time I crossed that room, the excuse I built, the future I believed I had saved, the hatred that followed. Then I remembered Amelia's final breath. Please don't take the letter. I walked to my desk, collected my notebook, and left the envelope exactly where Adrian had placed it. Amelia found it that afternoon. Within days, she and Adrian became a couple. They met secretly until the final examinations approached. Adrian received an early indication that his results would not be strong enough for the universities Amelia had targeted. He told her he did not want a long-distance relationship. Amelia made her choice. On the physics examination, she deliberately left 21 multiple-choice questions unanswered. Physics had always been her greatest strength. Leaving those answers blank lowered her total score enough to attend the same regional university as Adrian. Her parents did not know. Teachers did not know. People assumed pressure had overwhelmed her. Amelia's mother hugged her and insisted that one examination could not define a life. Her father blamed himself for expecting too much. They encouraged her to travel during the summer so she would not become depressed. Amelia went across Europe with Adrian. She posted photographs from beaches, music, festivals and crowded city streets. In every picture, she looked radiant. One image showed a tattoo on her arm containing Adrian's initials. Beneath it, she wrote, "Some futures are worth surrendering for the right person." The post received thousands of reactions. Former classmates called her the purest romantic they had ever known. I looked at the photograph once, then I closed the application. Her wish had been granted. This time, I had not interfered. We only walked the same road. Our next meaningful conversation occurred at an alumni gathering after the examination results. Amelia and Adrian stood at the center of the room. Everyone wanted to hear the story. You actually left 21 answers blank. Did your parents ever discover the truth? Were you frightened? Amelia held Adrian's hand. I knew what mattered to me. Someone raised a glass. To the bravest girl in our school. Others joined. To pure love. To Amelia and Adrian. I sat near the edge of the room, drinking sparkling water. My friend Liam Hayes dropped into the chair beside me. She deliberately damaged her examination score. Yes, for a boy. Yes. That is either the most romantic or most irresponsible thing I have ever heard. Perhaps both. Liam watched them. You don't seem upset. Why should I be? Everyone believed you and Amelia would end up together. Across the room, another classmate voiced the same thought. To be honest, I always thought Nathan would be standing beside Amelia. Adrian's smile tightened. Amelia answered immediately. Nathan and I were only ordinary friends who happened to grow up together. The words entered the room with unnecessary coldness. Perhaps she feared Adrian would misunderstand. Perhaps she wanted to erase any suggestion that another relationship had ever mattered. In our first life, those words would have wounded me. This time, I repeated them silently. Ordinary friends. She was correct. We had shared classrooms and meals, examinations and childhood holidays. But proximity was not ownership. History was not destiny. Adrian walked toward me with Amelia beside him. He lifted his glass. You were part of her life for 18 years. Amusement flickered in his eyes. No matter how ordinary she says the friendship was, you must be special. You'll congratulate us, won't you? I looked at Amelia. She wore a plain white shirt. Her eyes were bright. She appeared happier than she had ever been during our first life. I raised my glass. I did not accompany Amelia for 18 years. The room became quieter. We happened to travel along the same road for 18 years. I smiled politely. From now on, our roads are different. Amelia's fingers tightened around Adrian's hand. Enough people have congratulated you tonight. You do not need mine. I stood, but I sincerely hope both of you have brilliant futures. Then I left. I meant it. We came from ordinary families. We had studied until exhaustion, because we wanted lives larger than the streets where we were born. Whatever Amelia had surrendered, I did not want her remaining future to become miserable simply so I could feel vindicated. At least, that was what I told myself. A quieter part of me still wondered what her choice would cost the world beyond one beautiful boy. I attended the same university I had entered during my first life. This time, however, everything felt different. I studied mathematics, joined a debate society, participated in research competitions, volunteered as a tutor, learned to draw badly, and then slightly less badly. I began sketching every dog and cat wandering around campus and giving them ridiculous names. Outside our old school, Adrian had seemed extraordinary. Inside a university filled with brilliant, disciplined and talented people, I realized how small our teenage world had been. There were musicians more gifted than Adrian, athletes more dedicated, students whose quiet confidence did not depend on making everyone else feel ordinary. Adrian had not been a once-in-a-generation miracle. He had simply been the brightest light in a room where everyone else was too busy studying to shine. Amelia and I traveled in opposite directions. After graduation, my university was in the north. She and Adrian moved south. At the train station, I saw them sitting together in matching clothes. They watched a video on Adrian's phone. Amelia's arm showed the tattoo of his initials. She looked tanned from months of travel, different from the precise, serious girl in my memories. Our eyes met across the waiting area. I smiled in greeting. She looked startled. Then she moved her tattooed arm behind her back. Adrian asked what she was watching. Nothing, she replied. My train arrived. As I joined the line, I felt her gaze behind me. I did not turn around. Later, a message appeared on my phone. Nathan, I also wish you a brilliant future. I answered, thank you. That was the last conversation we had for 4 years. While I attended lectures, competitions and research programs, Amelia built her life around Adrian. She learned photography because he enjoyed it, joined volleyball activities, spent evenings editing his videos, argued online with women who flirted with him. Her social media page, once filled with physics problems and academic articles, became an archive of their relationship. Photographs of Adrian laughing, Adrian playing sports, Adrian beside a motorcycle, Adrian at sunset, captions about choosing love over expectations. At first, everything looked joyful. Then ordinary life arrived. Amelia tried to take her university studies seriously. Adrian considered studying an obstacle to enjoying youth. He complained that she spent too much time preparing for examinations. She complained that he spoke too intimately with other women. He wanted her to skip classes for volleyball matches and trips. She wanted him to consider postgraduate plans. The arguments remained small. Then they accumulated. The sacrifice that initially made their relationship feel legendary began poisoning it. Amelia had surrendered the university she wanted. Adrian had never asked himself what responsibility came with accepting that sacrifice. During their final year, a wealthy and attractive student began pursuing him. She had time, money, a car, connections. She invited Adrian to restaurants Amelia could not afford and events Amelia could not attend because of coursework. Adrian began comparing them. The girl who had once seemed brilliant and untouchable now appeared tired, jealous and demanding. Eventually, Amelia confronted him. I left 21 physics questions unanswered for you. Adrian stared at her. Then he laughed. You're still using that. I gave up my future so we could attend the same university. No. His voice became cold. You made a decision. I made it because you said you wouldn't do long distance. I didn't force you. You knew what it would cost, and you chose it anyway. He stepped closer. Do not blame me because you disliked the outcome of your own choice. The words ended the mythology. They separated soon afterward. Adrian began dating the wealthy student almost immediately. The girl once praised as a hero of pure love returned to her dormitory alone. The tattoo remained on her arm. The university name remained on her records, and the 21 unanswered questions could never be answered again. The reunion where the legend died. Our class gathered again 4 years after graduation. The students who had once admired Amelia had changed. Many now attended elite universities. They had traveled internationally, completed internships, published research and met people far more impressive than the popular boy from school. The story of Amelia's sacrificed examination no longer sounded romantic. It sounded uncomfortable. I arrived late because of traffic. Friends pulled me into the center of the room. One former classmate complained that I had defeated her university in a national debate. Competition. At school, Nathan barely spoke, she said. Then he stood on a debate stage and dismantled our entire argument without mercy. Someone laughed. Does he argue with his girlfriend like that? The group became louder. I smiled, but did not answer. Only then did I notice Amelia sitting near the edge of the room. She looked older, not physically old, dimmed. The quiet confidence she once carried had disappeared. Someone turned toward her. Where's Adrian? Another person laughed, awkwardly. Did our great hero of pure love not bring her? Leading man. The phrase sounded different now, less admiring, more mocking. Amelia remained silent for several seconds. Then she looked directly at me. We separated. The room became uncomfortable. Someone quickly changed the subject. Later, Liam told me what had happened during their university years. By the time he finished, his anger had replaced his amusement. That was her great love. I continued reading a magazine. So it seems, she destroyed her academic future. For someone who told her it was her own problem, it was her decision. Liam stared at me. You sound heartless. No. I closed the magazine. I sound accurate. He sat down. Do you think she regrets it? I don't know. How can you not care? Because regret cannot reverse a decision. I looked across the room. Amelia sat alone beneath warm lights while former classmates discussed research, careers, and graduate offers. She chose. I spoke quietly. Now she has to live with what she chose. In our first life, Amelia had made me carry the weight of the choice she never got to make. In this life, I had returned it to her, the journal she found in another life. There had been a time when I loved Amelia. I did not recognize it immediately. Our relationship contained no dramatic moments, no confession beneath rain, no first kiss, only hundreds of ordinary memories. Amelia helping me home after I injured my ankle, standing beside me outside class because I had overslept and arrived late, giving me her book when I forgot mine, studying together on Sundays, representing the school at competitions, arguing over equations, comforting each other. After disappointing results, one evening, she pointed toward the achievement board and asked whether I intended to stop at second place. That night, I wrote in my journal, I like Amelia Grant. Weeks later, Adrian's name appeared in her physics notes. I added another sentence. Amelia likes Adrian Blake. That was the only time I mentioned him. I never considered Adrian a rival. Love could not be obtained by defeating another man. If Amelia wanted him, my feelings did not give me a claim over her. The letter changed everything because my desire to protect her became indistinguishable from control. In our first life, Amelia discovered my feelings. Years later, an assumed jealousy explained my actions. By then, whatever love I once carried had already been exhausted by arguments. It ended as quietly as it began. She held my journal and mocked me. I apologized, not only for the letter, for becoming involved in a decision that was never mine. In my second life, I refused to repeat that mistake. The result was not kinder, but it was honest. The woman beside the hospital garden. Several years after university, Amelia's mother became ill. Our mothers remained close, so mine insisted we visit. I carried fruit into the hospital and listened, while the two women discussed family, neighbors, and children. Amelia was not in the room. When I left briefly to answer a work call, I found her sitting beside a small garden outside the hospital entrance. She wore a black coat. Exhaustion had settled across her face. For a second, she resembled the Amelia from my first life after a failed experiment or another. An answered message from Adrian. She looked up. Nathan. Amelia. She stood. At the reunion, I didn't have the chance to speak to you. There were many people. You've changed. So have you. Her smile became strained. You're more confident. University helped. And more successful. That depends on the definition. She lowered her gaze. I owe you an apology. I waited. In school, when people said we might end up together, I always told them we were only ordinary friends. That was true. I said it because I was afraid Adrian would misunderstand. I know, it was cruel. No. I smiled politely. We were ordinary friends. Her expression faltered. Was that all? What else would we be? She looked toward the sunset. For a while, neither of us spoke. Then she laughed bitterly. After Adrian and I separated, I began having the same dream. My body became still. In the dream, he wrote me a love letter before the examinations. She continued quietly. You found it first. The hospital sounds seemed to disappear. You removed the letter. I entered the university I wanted. Adrian and I separated. I blamed you for the rest of my life. I said nothing. The dream always ends inside a car. Her voice trembled. It's raining. Adrian calls because it's his wedding day. I turn the car around. She looked at me. Then there are headlights. I felt the old impact inside my bones. It feels real, she whispered. Too real. It was a dream. Was it? Yes. Amelia stepped closer. In that dream, you loved me. That was another life. Her eyes widened. I realized my mistake. Then I corrected myself. I mean another period of our lives. She searched my face. If you had found Adrian's letter first, would you have taken it? This was the question waiting beneath everything. Perhaps she remembered only fragments. Perhaps the second life had given her dreams instead of certainty. Perhaps she needed to know whether I had changed. I answered honestly, no. Her shoulders lowered. Why? Because it would not belong to me. Even if you knew what I might do. Yes. Even if I destroyed my future. Yes. Pain entered her face. You would let me. It would be your life. That sounds cruel. It is respect. She looked away. In our first life, I had believed respect meant preventing someone from making a terrible mistake. Now I understood that protecting a person from every consequence could become another form of taking away their agency. Amelia whispered, then that's good. What is? That you wouldn't take it. She smiled faintly. At least this life happened the way it was supposed to. I did not answer. She had achieved the wish from her final breath. Whether it had brought happiness was another question. The future she thought she could recover. Amelia began preparing for postgraduate entrance examinations. She wanted to enter the university she had originally targeted, the one whose physics program could restore the academic path she had abandoned. Her mother mentioned it proudly during another hospital visit. Amelia says the program is in your city. I nodded. She need excellent results. She's studying constantly. Her mother smiled at me. Perhaps you two can look after each other again. Before I could answer, Amelia entered the room. She stood near the sink with her back toward us. Her mother continued speaking. You and Amelia were inseparable as children. Everyone used to say you would marry. Childhood predictions are rarely reliable. I kept my tone gentle. Besides, I will be leaving the country soon. Amelia stopped moving. Her mother looked surprised. You're going abroad for 3 years. What about your girlfriend? She's continuing her research here for now. You have a girlfriend? Yes. Amelia remained facing the sink. Her mother immediately asked questions. I showed her a photograph. Sophia Bennett stood on a conference stage, explaining her research. She was calm, intelligent and quietly ambitious. We had met during an inter-university mathematics competition. Sophia had completed her undergraduate degree, master's program and doctoral work without treating achievements as a punishment. She played chess, practiced calligraphy, performed drums badly but enthusiastically. She did not require me to rescue her from her choices. She walked beside me. That is the person I love, I said. The person traveling toward the same future. Amelia did not turn around. When I left, I noticed faded marks where the tattoo of Adrian's initials had been removed from her arm. In the first life, that name existed only in the empty place between them. In the second, it had been carved into her skin, and then painfully erased. One life began with the absence of a letter. The other ended with the shadow of a name. Amelia attempted the postgraduate examination twice. Both times, she missed admission by a single point. Liam called me while I was working overseas. That is unbelievably unlucky. I suppose you truly don't feel anything. I hope she succeeds next time. That's all. That's all. By then, Adrian's face had begun fading from my memory. I could recall that he had been handsome. Nothing more. He later married the wealthy woman who pursued him. The wedding was extravagant. Within 2 years, she became interested in a younger and more accomplished man. Adrian protested. The marriage collapsed into a public and expensive divorce. When Liam told me, I felt no satisfaction. Adrian had never been my rival. He belonged to a world I had already outgrown. Amelia sent me a message one night, then withdrew it before I opened the conversation. I did not ask what it contained. Years later, after I returned home, old classmates organized a welcome dinner. Amelia attended. Near the end, she approached me. Did you see the message I deleted? No. She looked embarrassed. It was late. I was confused after a dream. I was probably asleep. That was an awkward lie. Her midnight had been my afternoon. She knew it. I knew it. Neither of us challenged it. The deleted message had read, Nathan, did you ever love me? The answer existed in another journal, another life, another version of us. It no longer mattered. Only an ordinary childhood friend. Sophia arrived carrying a small cake. She slipped one hand around my arm. Who were you speaking to? I looked toward Amelia. For a moment, I saw every version of her. The child who stood in front of bullies. The student pointing toward the achievement board, the girl writing Adrian's name across a physics paper, the woman who hated me for stealing a letter, the dying passenger begging me not to interfere. Again, the romantic hero leaving 21 answers blank, the exhausted graduate removing a tattoo, the woman asking whether I had ever loved her. After the answer could no longer change anything, I turned back to Sophia, an ordinary friend I knew growing up. Amelia heard me. Her face became pale. Perhaps she remembered using the same words. Perhaps she finally understood how completely time could empty a relationship of meaning. Sophia offered me the cake. You said you wanted chocolate. I did. You also said you would meet me outside. I was delayed, I noticed. I took her hand. Amelia watched us, not with anger, not exactly with love, with the expression of someone standing at a station after the final train has already disappeared. In our first life, she had a brilliant career and spent years believing Adrian was the happiness stolen from her. In our second, she chose Adrian and discovered that happiness was never guaranteed by getting what she wanted. She regretted both roads. That was the cruelty of imagining an unlived life. From a distance, the path not chosen always appears smooth. We cannot see its arguments, its disappointments, its ordinary mornings. Amelia believed attending Adrian's university would preserve their love. She never imagined the pressure of the sacrifice, the jealousy, the growing resentment. The moment he would tell her that nobody had forced her to choose him. In my first life, I believed preventing the mistake would protect her. I never imagined that she would transform my interference into the explanation for every regret. Neither of us understood that there was no perfect choice, only choices, and the responsibility to live with them. I once wanted Amelia's second life to become proof that I had been right. I wanted to see her suffer and admit that stealing the letter had saved her, that desire was another form of arrogance. Her failure would not make my interference correct. Her success would not make it wrong. The letter was hers. The decision was hers. The consequence was hers. My life was mine. That was the only truth the second chance had given me. Sophia squeezed my fingers. Ready? Yes. We walked toward the door. I did not turn around. For 18 years, Amelia and I had traveled along the same road. Then she chose another direction. In our first life, I tried to pull her back. In our second, I let her go. Not because I stopped caring immediately. Not because I wanted her punished. Because love that requires control eventually becomes resentment. Because good intentions do not grant ownership over another person's future. And because sometimes the kindest thing we can do for someone is allow them to make the choice they insist upon, then refuse to spend the rest of our lives carrying the consequence for them. Amelia received the life she had once died wishing for. I received something I had never known I needed, the freedom to stop looking backward. This story is entirely fictional and created for entertainment purposes. It does not encourage interfering with another person's private correspondence, sabotaging education, coercive relationships, harassment, or dangerous driving. Anyone experiencing emotional distress, relationship pressure, or a mental health crisis should seek appropriate support from trusted people and qualified professionals.